a Hindu Holocaust memorial in Washington, D.C. While addressing an event on Diwali, he says that it was because of the Hindus that Republican Party won the 2016 US presidential polls. Trump's promises also follow India raising issues at the United Nations as well. However, there have been many who continue to deny Hinduphobia and the atrocities inflicted on Hindus. But first up, listen in from Donald Trump himself.
They said, what did you think of 2020 compared to 2016? I said, well, we did much better in 2020.
Yep.
Yes. We had support from the Hindu population, the great Hindu people both times, and great support from India, people from India. I fully endorse the idea of building a Hindu Holocaust memorial in D.C. I totally do. I mean, I think it's time.
So yes, there have been many though who have been raising questions on the very existence of Hinduphobia, not just in India but across the world, especially given the incidents that have come to light from Leicester, from Birmingham in the United Kingdom. And to take this forward, let's quickly bring in Sushil Pandit, activist, joining us on this broadcast. Also with us is Dr. Sumanth Raman, who's a political analyst. The list of all those who have in fact ignored all of these cries, all of these instances that reflect Hinduphobia very much does exist. On your screens are some of those instances, but quickly opening this up, we have Sumanth Raman, and I want to quickly start by asking him, Mr. Sumanth Raman, here you have a world leader, the former US president, who acknowledges Hinduphobia on a global platform. He goes on to say that this is a concerning update, a concerning reality, and many in India who continue to deny this reality.
Look, President Trump is a right-wing politician, and naturally he caters to right-wing agendas everywhere. I'm not able to understand what is the rationale of building a Holocaust memorial. Where will this Holocaust memorial be built? What specifically does it commemorate? So I mean, I'm completely gobsmacked, except to say that this is a pre-election kind of a speech. And he probably starting his campaign a little early for the 2024 presidential election. And, beyond that, I don't think we can really give too much credence to it. And the very fact that we are debating something like this on national TV itself is a troubling sign. What is the Holocaust memorial about? What does it acknowledge?
But Dr. Sumanth Raman, why is it a troubling sign now, and why is it not a troubling sign when you see what's happening in Leicester and Birmingham and the kind of attacks that have taken place in the premises of some of the Hindu temples, some of the Hindu foundations, and the way the mob there could be seen going on a rampage? All of those are signs that are conveniently ignored. Then why have concerns over this? Look,
Hindus and Muslims have lived side by side in peaceful coexistence for decades, if not centuries. Now, to actually now pick up one or two or three incidents and then blow them completely out of proportion and say that, Hindu Khatre mein hai, which is essentially the dialogue that the ruling party uses to try to create a polarization and harvest the votes. I think that is very unfortunate. Is somebody who does the same thing. You have people who love him and you have people who hate him.
What's also unfortunate is while there is a section in this country and abroad who deny the idea of Hinduphobia, they very much are open and in acceptance to the idea of Islamophobia. So why this kind of a hypocrisy and double standard? Let me go across to Shinjoy, who's also joining us. Shinjoy, Dr. Sumanth Raman of the opinion that all of this is being done, ahead of the next presidential elections and perhaps too soon.
Yes, that would be so, because President Trump believes that yes, he can win the next election, and he can win it in the battleground states. States like Georgia, states like Wisconsin, states like Nevada, if the Hindu vote is on his side. So if he's doing anything, he's keeping in mind the elections, and winning these states, Pennsylvania also, will give him a huge leg up as far as the next elections are concerned, because the margins of defeat in these states like Georgia, like Pennsylvania, like Illinois, even Michigan, Nevada, were all very narrow. So if he thinks he can get the Indian vote, and primarily the Sikh vote, and that would be a great benefit to him, because then the Sikh vote and the Hindu vote will ensure, he thinks, a victory, even if it's by a narrow margin in these south states.
Okay, we also have another reaction coming in. Now, we'll just go across to Sushil Pandit as well for his view on what he really feels as to what has been said by ex-President Donald Trump. But for the moment, an NC reaction coming in. Zishan Rana says that he wants to remind Donald Trump that this is not just about Hindus. There are Muslims as well who have sacrificed their lives. So why is it that Trump is wanting to run an RSS agenda? Very, very interesting. Let's listen in.
I want to remind Mr. Donald Trump that India is not only about Hindus. India is a country which is known for its unity and diversity, where people of different sect, different religion, caste live together. So by this statement, he is undermining the sacrifices made by the people of this country for this great nation. He is undermining the sacrifice made by many Muslims, many Sikhs. So it is a country, India is a country which takes everybody along. You cannot talk about RSS agenda here. You cannot implement RSS agenda here.
Another reaction coming in from the JDU. We have Rajiv Ranjan, JDU spokesperson, who is again talking about this from the prism of the upcoming presidential elections, which by the way are not anywhere in the near future, but he's saying that he's trying to get votes of those of the Indian origin. So this is just a vote garnering tactic as per the JDU as well. Listen in.
उनकी निगाहें भविष्य में राष्ट्रपति चुनाव पर है, लेकिन आज जो हालात बदले हैं, दुनिया के दो बड़े लोकतंत्र, एक तरफ अमेरिका में कमला हैरिस का वहां वाइस प्रेसिडेंट चुना जाना, दूसरी तरफ भारतीय मूल के ऋषि सुनक का ब्रिटेन के तख्त पर, ब्रिटेन के प्रधानमंत्री पद पर आसीन होना, ये दो ऐसे बड़े निर्णय हैं जो मैं समझता हूं वो हिंदुस्तानी मूल के एकजुटता के कारण संभव हो.
So slew of reactions coming in, Srinjoy. Before we go across to Mr. Pandit, Srinjoy, to put this in perspective, yes, of course, presidential elections, are on the priority list of Donald Trump, because he has in the past also benefited from this very section in the country when he did win the earlier presidential polls. But the fact also remains that there is an acknowledgement of Hinduphobia, the fact that he's wanting to now build a Hindu Holocaust memorial.
He has every right to plan that, and if he becomes president. The big question is if he becomes president. But the point is very good. He wants to build a Hindu Holocaust memorial. That is something lots of people in India will welcome. There's no problem with that. Lots of people have died, so therefore a memorial is extremely welcome. But why is he doing it? You would think it is, knowing Trump, it is to get votes. And if he believes that a memorial will help him to, a promise of a memorial will help him to get votes in these battleground states like Nevada, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Wisconsin, and so on. Well, very good for him. But whether that will actually happen or not, we don't know. And the elections are not very far away. Actually, President Trump is bang on time, because before the presidential elections are the primaries, and the primaries will take a long while. So right now, even in November, you will have the elections to the House of Representatives and part of the Senate. So as a result, President Trump is bang on time. He is readying himself for the coming elections in November, and after that, the primaries, which take a long time. And even before that, there is a lot of campaigning that happens. So President Trump is not early. He's not doing anything ahead of schedule. He's bang on time. We'll just have to see how successful it actually is.
So that's the reaction coming in from President Donald Trump. I want to quickly play out another reaction, but a quick comment from Sushil Pandit before that. Sushil Pandit, now, while there is a recognition of this very concept by President Donald Trump as well, even if it is from the prism of the presidential elections due next, but the reality is that blatant denial within India of the same. So isn't this quite bizarre that while there continues to be a denial from several political circles in India, so that they go on to deny till date the genocide that took place in Kashmir, the 1990 genocide. Here's a global leader who is recognizing the very concept. I'll come back to you. We have a reaction coming in from the NC as well. Very, very interesting, the kind of political reactions that are being witnessed today, because questions being asked of why is it that this kind of a political comment has been made by ex-President Donald Trump, but the Kashmiri Pandit community, interestingly, lauding this very move.
As a victim of the worst possible genocide in Kashmir, being a Kashmiri Pandit, I welcome Donald Trump's announcement of building a Hindu Holocaust memorial in Washington. But there has been a total silence on the genocide and ethnic cleansing of Hindus in India. This step towards building a Holocaust memorial of Hindus in America should inspire our governments to repeat the same.
Interesting comment from Ashok Pandit, also on expected lines. Mr. Sushil Pandit, on expected lines also, because the same ecosystem here in India, while Kashmiri Files was being promoted, kept saying that this is not to bring out the reality but to incite hate. They rejected the very idea and they called it completely false.
You are talking about different political opinions in India denying the Holocaust. On your panel, people are still peddling the myth of centuries of harmony, living side by side. We are the living examples of that living side by side. We have been completely cleansed from the valley. And today we are subjected to targeted killing every day. And can't forget a millennia, 1,000 years of relentless, ruthless genocide, which did not spare any part of our country, including peninsular India. Who can forget what Tipu did right up to Srirangapatnam, in Malabar, in Mysore? What Deccan India saw under Bahmanis, under Nizam, what Bengal saw, what Indo-Gangetic Plain saw, what Sindh saw, what Punjab and Pakistan saw. Today in Afghanistan, there are only 42 Hindu Sikhs left. Last 25th of September, barely less than a month ago, you had 52 of them airlifted to India. Today in Pakistan, less than 1% population of Hindu Sikhs survive, whereas there were 21% by 1951 census in Pakistan. In Bangladesh, a demographer says every day 600 Hindus disappear, and at this rate, by 250 in Bangladesh, Hindu population will be over. And we are still denying this Holocaust. We are still denying this genocide. It has been relentless, ruthless killing of Hindus. And if from within our community there are collaborators with jihad, there are collaborators in this genocide, those who whitewash this truth and speak up for the enemy, you know what kind of entrenched place, a stranglehold on this narrative is of these left liberal cabal who deny it. Because they are collaborators. Remember, never forget, denier of a genocide is repeating that genocide over and over again, because you legitimize it by your words and action. And if you are part of the victims community, you collaborate, you are even more lethal in this process, because you are enabler of this genocide. You shut your eyes, you refuse to acknowledge it, yet delivering justice and reversing it. So I'm happy that Donald Trump has come out with this proposal of Hindu Holocaust. And if he is doing it for political purposes, show me one politician anywhere in the world in democratic processes who does not do things keeping an eye on the votes. One politician. So you legitimize politicians doing things elsewhere for the sake of votes, but for a real issue like Hindu hate, I wouldn't call it Hinduphobia, it is Hindu hate, visceral, entrenched Hindu hate, which has led invaders create towers, minarets of Hindu skulls, where hundreds of thousands were annihilated. An estimate is that more than 250 million, 25 crore Hindus paid with their lives as part of this genocide, which still goes on. Hindus are all but cleansed in Pakistan.
Okay.
Hindus are over, finito in Afghanistan.
So why the denial? Dr. Sumanth Raman, when someone like Donald Trump, who's not even catering to the Hindu vote alone in the United States, interestingly, can admit to what's happening, not just in the United States, but across the world, he can see through those patterns. Why is it that some in India are failing to do so? Why are they calling this a one-sided narrative?
No. I think the people in India who are saying that, you have to accept today's present reality, which is to sort of live in peaceful coexistence, it's an absolute necessity for peace, economic development and progress. To say that you should not and you should, start correcting all the wrongs of history, there is no end. Where does one stop? If you start with this theory that all the wrongs of history have to be corrected and the sins of the ancestors must be visited on the descendant, I think that there will be no end to it.
Sir, forget correcting the historical wrongs. There is no admission or acknowledgement on a basic level of those historical wrongs having taken place. I'm going to come back to you in just a bit, quickly playing out a Congress reaction as well, because this is extremely interesting how there continues to be that blatant denial. Congress also against the Holocaust memorial that has been announced by ex-President Donald Trump has termed it as a bid to divide India. Listen in.
उसके डिविसिव पॉलिटिक्स का पार्ट है, वो ये भूल रहा है कि भारत देश जो है इसमें डाइवर्सिटी है। यहाँ के हिंदू, यहाँ का मुसलमान, यहाँ का सिख, यहाँ के ईसाई, हर एक कम्युनिटी का इस देश को बनाने में बहुत बड़ा बलिदान है, सैक्रिफाइस है, कंट्रीब्यूशन है। आप किसी एक कम्युनिटी को पकड़ के आगे नहीं ले जा सकते। जिस तरह के डोनाल्ड ट्रंप की हिस्ट्री भी रही है, कुछ हमारे देश के जो लोग हैं गद्दार हैं और कुछ वो लोग मिलके ये एक साजिश है कि भारत देश को जो है बांटा जाए, हिंदुत्व का एजेंडा चलाया जाए ताकि हमारे देश में इंटरनल जो है वो आपस में वार हो।
All right, not surprising really. Are you surprised that, Sushil Pandit, because the Congress in the past as well, like I was citing the example of Kashmir files, said that this is just one-sided attempt to paint the hate and the wrongdoings of one side. And, it's really not talking about the narrative of the Muslim side. That's what was said by Ghulam Nabi Azad back then as well. So not surprising really.
Yeah, no, so politicians have their reasons. And those who accuse others of divisive politics must see what their own conduct is. But forget politicians aside, the glib so-called intellectuals rationalize it as living together in harmony. So for living together in harmony, you should turn into sacrificial lambs. You should not even speak the truth. Forgetting correcting the wrongs of history. You are not even willing to acknowledge that the history is soaked in your blood, and that you've been paying with your lives in order to one-sided peddle harmony. One-sided harmony. Harmony is a two-way street. Peace is a two-way street. You cannot keep making concessions with your lives. You cannot keep collapsing your demography in geography after geography, pay the price, and then say, we will not even talk about what has been visited upon us. A Holocaust, a colossal tragedy, massacre after massacre, but in the interest of so-called harmony, peddle lies. Don't you not even acknowledge? Forget talking about justice. Forget talking about correcting history. You are even actually lying on an industrial scale in order to hide this.
What would you want to do now?
Hate.
You tell us, what do you think that we should do? We should start correcting all the wrongs of history.
No,
Dr. Sumanth Raman,
how do you cut through?
to begin with, I think there can be basic acknowledgement of the very idea of the concept, because if there is an acknowledgement, an agreement to the idea of Islamophobia in pockets where it does exist. There should be an equal acknowledgement of Hinduphobia and that term as well where it does exist. It's as simple as that. I'm going to have to leave it at that. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on Times Now. It's time for us to head into a quick break for now.